A figure cloaked in darkness slowly moves through their personal sanctuary. A vast, endless field filled with a multitude of blooming flowers stretching as far as the eye can see. For many years, this outcast has traversed this same familiar path, his daily routine blending seamlessly into the next, each day indistinguishable from the last. Yet, on this particular day, that monotonous rhythm is abruptly shattered by an unexpected sight. Someone lying motionless among the vibrant blossoms. Upon closer inspection, the figure reveals a face that is surprisingly well known. A face he would never have expected to see here, let alone in this place. It's Noah Gran, the beloved heroine from his favorite story, the character he admires with all his heart. The shock of recognizing her so unexpectedly cracks his mysterious, stoic facade, making him forget his usually guarded composure. This is the character he has adored above all others, the one who has left an indelible mark on his imagination. In an overwhelming wave of fandom, panic rises within him as he questions the surreal presence of his beloved hero in this quiet, floral paradise. Why, of all places, her presence here seems impossible and bewildering. Suddenly, memories from the story flash through his mind, revealing a detail he had long forgotten from the opening scenes. According to the plot, she is supposed to escape on her own, encouraging him to stay out of her way and let her carve her own path. But at that moment, he dismisses the constraints of the story altogether. His instinct is too strong, his attachment too deep. He cannot abandon her. Without hesitation, he gently bends down and scoops her up into his arms, determined to defy the narrative's supposed rules. This decision is driven by a memory, an odd, vivid recollection of his bizarre reincarnation into this strange universe, a unique, irreversible ticket into his favorite fictional world. Within this universe, a select group of heroes known as the Guardians safeguard humanity from threats beyond ordinary comprehension, and Noah Gran is one of the most eminent among them, a fierce warrior committed to defending the innocent. Her tragic backstory is etched into his mind. Her origins are rooted in suffering and loss, and it was this very story that cemented her place as his greatest hero. This universe is none other than the fantasy realm of Utopia of the Fallen Mist, the game into which he had poured his entire past life, immersing himself fully. Even in his fanboy reveries, he had dwelled on her in-game destiny, a dark and twisted future that cast her as a tragic figure bound by sorrow. Her backstory begins in a bleak orphanage, a place devoid of warmth or kindness, where she was treated with hostility and neglect. As a child, she was forced into servitude, overburdened with relentless chores and exhaustion. Each task completed only led to another, often more degrading and humiliating. Night after night, she was made to work late, her pleas for mercy ignored, her dignity stripped away piece by piece. Eventually, the orphanage's ruthless director sold her off for a handful of coins, severing her last connection to any semblance of family or home. She was then chained and taken away from everything she had ever known, her fate sealed. Her new master regarded her as property, not a person, and any hope she harbored for a better life was shattered instantly beneath his authoritarian boot. Despite her desperate pleas and cries of innocence, her words fell on deaf ears. She was merely a slave, her feelings dismissed as irrelevant. The man justified his cruelty as simply playing his part in this dark, merciless world. Over time, the spark of innocence and hope within her eyes gradually dimmed, replaced by a cold, hollow stare, as if her very soul was slowly being extinguished. Eventually, she was presented to a more powerful and mysterious noblewoman, who took an interest in her and decided to purchase Noah for herself. For the first time in her bleak existence, she was given clean clothing and a fleeting taste of dignity. She savored the moment. A proper meal and the comfort of a soft bed, luxuries she had never known before. And in that rare serenity, she felt an almost unreal sense of happiness, believing she had finally found her own small piece of paradise. Yet, this fleeting kindness was only a prelude to a harsher reality. Her so-called sanctuary was short-lived, and she, along with other children, was herded to the foot of a vast, ominous wall, the boundary separating her world from the dreaded demon realm. Desperation overtook her as she confronted the guard, demanding to know why her supposed savior had abandoned them in such a terrible place. The guard coldly revealed the final cruel order she had given, allowing them their so-called freedom, which was nothing more than a cruel illusion. Suddenly, the noblewoman herself appears, ascending the wall to address the children directly. Standing tall, she mockingly congratulates them on their service and laments the lack of entertainment in their miserable world, revealing her twisted motive behind all this cruelty. The horrifying truth hits Noah like a lightning strike in that moment. She has been nothing but a tool in her captor's malicious game. As the noblewoman's malicious words echo in her ears, she finally understands what is truly happening. Her liberation is a lie, and now she faces the monstrous consequences of her so-called freedom. Without warning, she is unleashed upon the helpless children, horrific beasts emerging from the shadows to tear into them, chaos igniting instantly. Frozen in terror, Noah can only stand helpless as the nightmare unfolds before her, her mind struggling to process the horror. In this moment of sheer desperation, a frantic impulse ignites within her, the instinct to protect others, to fight back against the relentless slaughter. But it is more than instinct. An untamed surge of raw, chaotic magic suddenly erupts from her hands, startling everyone around her. The nobles, taken aback by her sudden display of power, dismiss her as just a frightened girl, incapable of truly harnessing such strength. Yet, Noah, driven by a fierce resolve, channels every ounce of her newfound mystical energy into a desperate attack. She refuses to accept her helplessness, fiercely dodging a monstrous strike that could finish her. Her voice trembles with a mixture of fear and defiance as she cries out her inability to change the terrible outcome. Her eyes fill with tears of helplessness, her heart pounding with despair as she witnesses the suffering of the other children. Despite her pain, one unyielding thought burns brighter than all the rest. She must survive, no matter what. The hours seem like an eternity as she fights tirelessly against an overwhelming tide of monsters, her body pushed to its limits, her spirit battered but unbroken. One by one, her companions fall, their screams fading into the shadows, until only she remains amid the wreckage. Her battered body finally succumbs to exhaustion, her vision clouding while she collapses in unutterable fatigue. This would have been the end of her tragic journey, the moment where her story closed on a note of despair. Yet, somehow, destiny had other plans. Just as the monstrous beast readies to deliver a fatal blow, her last ember of survival instinct flares within her. With every ounce of strength she can muster, she reaches out, utterly rejecting her grim fate. An intense fire ignites in her eyes, and with one final burst of chaotic energy, she unleashes an explosive blast directly at her tormentor. Screaming with all her might, she defies the cruel universe around her, forcing her battered body to fight on. The beast is annihilated, vaporized by the unrestrained force of her will and magic. Her face, streaked with tears and streaked with determination, becomes a mask of unwavering defiance, a symbol of her refusal to surrender. What follows is a chaotic whirlwind, her fighting against the monsters with fierce, relentless energy, a one-made army wielding raw magic and fierce resolve. After what feels like an eternity, her battered feet finally touch down on soft, tranquil ground. She finds herself in a stunningly beautiful meadow, bathed in a gentle, warm glow that soothes her battered soul. Confused yet strangely safe, she quickly realizes that the monstrous creatures are gone, replaced by an enchanted, peaceful realm that radiates serenity. As exhaustion finally overwhelms her, she drifts into unconsciousness, her last thought lingering on the wondrous, tranquil place, a heaven in her tired mind. Her mind, however, does not dwell on the beyond. Instead, she awakens within a strange, unfamiliar bed, disoriented by the unfamiliar surroundings. Her aching body and confusion are interrupted by the creak of a door opening. Her first visitor of this new day is not a gentle caretaker or nurse, but a massive, tusked beast glaring directly at her with piercing eyes. Just when she thought her nightmare had ended, an even more incredible and terrifying new nightmare begins to unfold at her bedside. one filled with the most unexpected and surreal figures she could scarcely imagine. Before she has a chance to scream, a mysterious figure cloaked in darkness steps boldly between her and the menacing creature. With a single, effortless movement, this enigmatic stranger sends the beast soaring across the room, as if it weighed nothing. The figure casually remarks that she's already conscious, almost as if battling monsters is nothing more than an everyday occurrence. A typical Tuesday for her. Inside, the young fanboy protagonist struggles to contain his overwhelming admiration, fighting the urge to lose his composure in the presence of his hero. His initial fear quickly morphs into fierce rage, and he lashes out at the mysterious protector, feeling an instinct to defend himself. Without apparent effort, an unseen force collides with the cloaked figure, hurling him backward. Shock registers on his face as he realizes that she's already unleashed her most powerful ability this early in the encounter. Memories from his past life as a gamer surface instinctively, confirming what he's witnessing. This is her legendary psychokinesis, the extraordinary power to move and manipulate objects through sheer force of will. Mistaking him for a threat, she unleashes a barrage of debris and wreckage in his direction, her intent clear. Noah desperately raises his arms to shield himself, desperately trying to keep this formidable stranger at a distance. But, with remarkable ease, he casually deflects her entire psychic assault with just a gentle gust of wind. Her eyes widen in disbelief. Her ultimate attack has been swept aside as effortlessly as if it were a mere breeze. A chilling realization dawns on her. This individual operates on a far higher level than even the monsters she's faced before. His glowing eyes betray an immense, almost incomprehensible power, levels that seem worlds apart from her own. Yet, instead of retaliating in anger or fear, he slowly gathers an unfamiliar, shimmering light within his hands. Sensing an opening, Noah directs all her remaining psychic energy toward his throat, her desperation fueling her final bid to take him down. She is willing to risk everything, rather than be captured again or consumed by another monster. She must incapacitate him. With every ounce of her strength and desperate will to survive, she pours herself into this last attack, aiming to strike at his vital points. For a fleeting, terrifying moment, it appears to succeed. Her power seems to wrap around him, tightening like a vice. But then, he nonchalantly straightens his posture, standing unaffected. With an effortless motion, he shatters her psychic grip as though it were nothing more than a gentle breeze scattering leaves. Noah's face twists in shock and disbelief. Her greatest effort has utterly failed. The raw feedback from her shattered attack knocks her violently to the ground, flattening her exhausted body. Lying there, utterly drained and defeated, she can only stare upward in despair and despair. He looms over her, his eyes glowing with an ominous light that seems to announce her defeat. Her spirit shatters along with her hopes, and she feels her desperate struggles, her fight to survive, diminish to nothing. Tears begin to stream down her face as she finally accepts the cruel reality of her situation. But instead of delivering a final mortal blow, an unexpected and bizarre scene unfolds. A warm, flickering flame appears seemingly out of nowhere. Her mysterious captor casually starts roasting a whole chicken right there in front of her, as if it's the most natural thing in the world. Noah's mind struggles to process this surreal turn of events, her thoughts thrown into chaos. With skillful ease, he begins carving the meal, completely forgetting that just moments ago he had been embroiled in a fierce battle. In a flash, he prepares a perfect, juicy piece of meat for a skewer, showcasing remarkable expertise. With a flourish, he presents a beautifully grilled kebab, steaming and inviting, as if offering comfort rather than conflict. Extending the skewers toward his terrified guest, he leaves her utterly speechless and baffled. Noah's mind simply cannot comprehend why a monster, an apparent threat, would suddenly be preparing and sharing such a simple but inviting meal. He, on his part, is entirely unaware of her confusion, internalizing her terror as just the understandable reaction of a frightened child who has recently awakened her hidden powers. Yet her immediate anguish and fear are soon overtaken by a much more urgent and primal need: hunger. Her humiliation and dread clash with the growing demands of her empty stomach, which is now harshly reminding her of its thirst for nourishment. Without hesitation, he once again offers her the food, though his true motives remain shrouded in mystery. Her thoughts whirl as she cautiously takes the skewer, her mind racing to decipher this bizarre and unpredictable attacker's true purpose. Her eyes, swirling with a mix of shock and exhaustion, reveal her mind teetering on the edge of overload. Giving in to her hunger, she finally takes a daring bite, challenging him to understand her desperate act. Meanwhile, her silent observer, our protagonist, wonders if his simple, unseasoned cuisine can really be palatable. He watches in stunned silence as her tears of terror shift into something more complex. Relief, perhaps, or awe. The very first taste of the grilled meat shatters her emotional defenses, and tears of pure, overwhelming relief begin to flow freely. She murmurs in disbelief, her voice trembling, that it's just grilled meat, but it's more than she could have ever hoped for. That single, glistening piece symbolizes years of missed warmth, comfort, and human kindness, longings she had forgotten how to feel. Through her weeping, she whispers that it is the most delicious thing she has ever tasted. More than just food, it feels like a healing balm. For her, that moment signifies a wave of relief, exhaustion, and a newly found sense of comfort, all culminating in her collapsing into him. He catches her gently, recalling every painful detail of her tragic past that he knew from his previous life. Memories of vows made to avoid human contact after becoming a monster in this new world flood his mind. Yet, witnessing her suffering firsthand compels him to reconsider, and he recognizes that abandoning her is no longer an option. With her last remaining strength, she weakly clutches at his cloak, her voice trembling as she whispers her most vital question. Through her tears, she asks the one thing she needs to know above all else. Are you on my side? Her vulnerable and heartfelt appeal hits him with the force of a freight train, leaving him momentarily stunned. His fanboy heart, overwhelmed by her plea, struggles to respond. Instinctively, he puffs out his chest and, trying to sound confident, claims, "Of course I am." A single tear of relief escapes her, tracing a delicate path down her cheek. For the first time, she offers a fragile but genuine smile, whispering softly, "Thank you." The emotional impact of that simple phrase is enough to short-circuit his entire mind. He crumples in silent, overwhelmed admiration, a fanboy meltdown happening right before her eyes. Curious and slightly amused, Noah then asks if he's able to speak. She tilts her head, surprised that this mysterious cloaked figure can understand her words at all. Seeing his flustered face, a small, knowing smile plays on her lips as she remarks that he's quite interesting. He attempts to maintain composure but becomes visibly rattled by her words. With a bitter chuckle, she confesses that her entire life has been nothing but a long, miserable nightmare. Wearing a sad smile, she admits she had long abandoned hope that anyone would come to save her. It strikes her as deeply ironic that her so-called hero turned out to be a monster rather than a knight in shining armor. Feeling an odd sense of comfort amidst the chaos, she then gathers her courage and asks him outright for his name. This question catches him completely off guard. Does she mean the name from his past life? She points out the obvious, clarifying that as a monster in this world, he probably does not have a proper name anymore. With a brilliant smile, Noah offers to be the one to give him a name, her voice full of gentle determination. Her words make his heart race. His greatest hero, the one he admired from afar, is now choosing to bestow upon him a new identity. As he spirals rapidly into a full-blown panic, Noah takes a moment to carefully consider what to call her new companion, the one who unexpectedly appeared in her life. A glimmer of excitement sparks in her eyes as her gaze settles on a name that feels just right, Ray. The simple, yet perfect nature of this name causes Noah's mind to short-circuit with joy and admiration, overwhelming his usual composure. In a burst of pure, uncontainable happiness, he raises his hands and twirls in celebration, completement loving the name he's chosen for her protector. Although eager to maintain a calm facade, He reminds himself that his hero's happiness and safety are what truly matter in this moment. For a fleeting instant, he perceives her not merely as a fictional character, but as a genuine girl, vivid, alive, and smiling softly before him. That emotional, touching moment is suddenly shattered when the loud, insistent growl of her stomach interrupts, snapping him back to reality. He wishes fervently that he could speak aloud, to assure her that he would always be there to shield her from harm, regardless of what dangers lay ahead. Instead, he channels his magic and conjures a comforting supply of food, vowing silently to remain her unwavering ally and guardian. As she begins to eat, Noah quietly offers a heartfelt thank you to Rei, feeling a renewed sense of gratitude for his kindness, finally having a meaningful name for the one who protects her. But just as they share this quiet moment, a new wave of determination washes over her, and she boldly announces that she cannot stay confined within this sanctuary forever. The words hit Noah like a lightning strike, causing his entire world to come to an abrupt halt. Why would she ever want to leave this peaceful sanctuary, this little haven where she's found safety and comfort? She explains that despite all her circumstances, she feels an irresistible pull to return to the human world. Noah confesses that her own memories of her past are bleak and filled with pain, yet she cannot ignore that deep, unshakable feeling clearly urging her to go back. With a heavy heart, she declares that their paths must now diverge, no matter how much they both wish otherwise. She turns to give him one last meaningful look, expressing her gratitude for the food and his kindness, then silently says farewell. A bittersweet smile appears on Noah's face as he quietly offers her a final goodbye. The door softly clicks shut behind her, leaving Rei utterly alone amidst the sudden oppressive silence that fills the air. He watches her run off into the distance, a pang of realization striking him. She was completely serious about leaving forever. Internally, Rei begins to panic, feeling helpless as he understands that he cannot simply stand by and let his hero walk away from him. Just as she steps into the unknown, a monstrous beast lunges out from the shadows, snarling fiercely, intent on attacking her. The beast's snarling face fills her vision, threatening to rip her apart. However, in a flash, Rei appears just in time, executing a powerful kick that sends the monster hurtling backward. Without hesitation, he quickly sweeps her into his arms, refusing to let her face this dangerous world alone. Striking a dramatic pose, he offers himself as her personal protector, catching her completely off guard. His silent, unwavering nod serves as her only answer, conveying all the courage and resolve she needs. A brilliant wave of relief washes over her face as she clings tightly to her new guardian, feeling safe at last. Hand in hand, the two of them set off on their journey, her heartfelt gratitude echoing softly in the air around them. Beneath the vast, star-studded sky, Noah looks at her mysterious companion with a thoughtful expression. She softly addresses him, wondering aloud if Rei's power is simply ordinary magic or something more extraordinary. She recalls how her own magic had failed earlier, yet Rei's ability had instantly obliterated the monsters. Filled with curiosity, Noah asks if he is an ability user and pleads with him to demonstrate his powers. Rei pauses thoughtfully, considering her eager request. Then, instead of performing an extravagant display, reaches out gently for her injured leg. Surprising her completely, he catches her off guard. A warm, gentle light radiates from his hands, surrounding her in a calming, restorative glow. He's not just healing her wounds. He's applying buffs to restore her vitality, renew her spirit, and even grant regeneration. Noah stares in awe as she feels her injuries miraculously knitting themselves back together. Instantly, she leaps to her feet, feeling revitalized and invigorated, exclaiming that he is undoubtedly a healer of some kind. Utterly captivated, she admits she was expecting the typical destructive magic, but this gentle power is an astonishing revelation. Rei internally admits that after decades of boredom in his new existence, he has mastered various abilities, including healing, in secret. She finds the concept of a healing monster utterly fascinating, calling him a remarkable walking contradiction. He, in turn, concludes that her happiness is all that truly matters to him. Ignoring his own initial confusion about her seemingly illogical reasoning, she explains that to harness such powers, one must channel the holy energy flowing within their own body. This very energy, she explains, is a monster's greatest weakness, which is why only ability users can truly defeat them. Consequently, Rei becomes a complete anomaly, an extraordinary monster capable of wielding the very power that theoretically should threaten to destroy him. Suddenly, Noah points out their distance from safety, spotting a massive city wall on the horizon. She recognizes the giant structure as the fortress city of Urog, her former home. Rei surveys the ruins around them and notes that this entire territory was forsaken after the monster invasion drove humanity into retreat. Noah then declares that, with the border guardians ahead, she believes she can now face the journey alone from this point onward. She urges Rei to turn back, insisting that their shared journey has reached its end. But before he can voice his protest, a sudden attack interrupts. The sharp, piercing thrust of a blade sinks into his back from behind. Rei can only manage a bewildered "huh" as the attack sinks in. Noah's face contorts in horror and utter terror upon witnessing her protector being struck down so suddenly. She screams his name in desperation, watching with dread as he staggers from the unexpected wound. Overcome with shock, she can only stand frozen, helpless, as the horrifying scene unfolds before her. For a fleeting moment, Rei fears that this might be the end for him. Then, with renewed resolve, he snaps back to action, grabbing his attacker and demanding fiercely to know their identity. Using a burst of strength, he effortlessly hurls his mysterious assailant away. He stands tall over the stunned Noah, annoyed that a human knight was able to catch him off guard. Rei glances down at his wound, acknowledging that he had anticipated some trouble, but not quite so soon. His attacker is revealed to be one of the border guardians, an elite knight Noah had just mentioned. The knight's eyes burn with a cold, intense focus, clearly here on serious business. Yet, the wound in Rei's chest immediately begins to heal with a flash of magical light, much to the knight's surprise. Rei internally notes that a holy attack to the core should have been fatal for any monster, yet he smirks beneath his hood because he is far from an ordinary monster. Without hesitation, the knight lunges again, moving with blinding speed for yet another strike. He appears behind Rei, only to find that the monster has vanished instantly into thin air. Suddenly, Noah throws herself between them, shouting for the knight to cease his attack. She stands her ground resolutely, fiercely protecting the very person who had saved her life. With her hands outstretched, she pleads desperately for the knight to spare her mysterious friend, Rei. The knight was left stunned, utterly taken aback by the sudden shift in the situation. It became painfully clear that the girl he was facing was no ordinary individual. She possessed formidable abilities that set her apart from others. Noah's eyes burned with a fierce determination, a stubborn resolve to protect what mattered most to her, refusing to let anyone she cared about suffer harm again. As her mind raced, she began connecting the dots, asking herself if she was indeed the survivor from that terrible incident the day before. A dark, grim flashback confirmed her suspicion. She was the sole survivor of the merciless game orchestrated by the noblewoman. The knight's initial aggression melted into a look of relief as he processed this revelation. He then gently inquired whether she was unscathed after enduring such a brutal ordeal. Noah was utterly baffled by the abrupt change in his demeanor, questioning what could have possibly caused this unexpected turnaround. Recognizing the limits of his authority and understanding the complexity of the situation, he admitted that it was beyond his capacity to judge and requested to meet with his superior officer. The knight then introduced himself formally as Will Steele, offering a sincere apology for his impulsive attack. He explained that he was still very much a rookie, an inexperienced border guardian recently assigned to this exact post. Will shared that his superiors would undoubtedly be overjoyed to learn that she had survived. He informed her that they were headed toward a guardian's residential district just beyond the city walls, where they could find safety and answers. As they moved, Will cast a glance back at Noah, hesitating before asking whether her monstrous companion would be accompanying them. The moment made Noah break out into a cold sweat. The reality of sneaking a creature like Rei into a fortified city struck her with full force. She felt the weight of their situation more acutely than ever. She couldn't get the image out of her mind. Rei being struck down, right in front of her eyes, a vision of despair that haunted her still. Seeing this, Will's expression hardened, displaying a resolve that refused to abandon them to their fate. With no other options left, he decided to act quickly, springing into motion. He unfurled a giant cloak, a sudden spark of brilliant strategy forming in his mind. With a dramatic flourish, he dramatically draped the enormous garment over Noah, effectively hiding her from sight. Will declared that he would conceal her, a plan that prompted silent confusion from Rei, who wondered about the peculiarity of Will's own conspicuous appearance. Turning to Noah, Will then asked for her name, to which she responded with formal dignity, Noah Gran. The knight explained that, like her, all guardians are powerful individuals capable of extraordinary abilities. With a finger pressed to his lips in a gesture for silence, he warned them to keep Rei's true nature secret, emphasizing that their monstrous companion must remain hidden from prying eyes. Guiding them through the bustling city streets, Will stressed the importance of secrecy, warning them that Rei must not be discovered. Their destination loomed in the distance, a massive fortress that served as the headquarters of the Guardians, a place of great strength and significance. Upon arriving, Will announced his presence to his commander. All the while Noah and Rei huddled beneath the cloak, trying to stay unnoticed. Without waiting for any formal response, the rookie knight boldly threw open the door, revealing an interior with a man inside. The man sighed loudly, clearly irritated that Will hadn't even waited for permission. His glare pierced through Will, sarcastically questioning whether he had ever learned the simple courtesy of knocking. For his part, Will offered a formal apology to his superior, Commander Liberato Rosalia, though his tone suggested a youthful inexperience. Peeking cautiously from their hiding spot, Noah introduced herself properly to the commander, doing so with a mixture of nervousness and resolve. The commander's jaw slackened, his stern appearance instantly dissolving in disbelief when he realized who she was. He slammed his fist onto the desk in shock, losing his composure entirely at the revelation of her survival. Overcome with emotion, the commander grasped her shoulders tightly, a mixture of relief and shock flooding through him as he realized she was alive. Noah was taken aback by his sudden, intense reaction, unsure whether to be alarmed or comforted. In the next moment, the commander bowed deeply, apologizing for their inability to prevent the tragedy that had befallen her. Noah, however, quickly reassured him that there was no need for apologies. She insisted that the true villains were the nobles, who had orchestrated such cruelty. Liberato expressed gratitude for her forgiveness, though the guilt still weighed heavily on him. With a calm and mature demeanor, she accepted his apology and offered her own forgiveness in return. The commander sighed in relief, yet he admitted that it would be unrealistic to expect her to simply let go of her desire for revenge. He also pointed out that such an obsession would only prolong her pain and healing process. Liberato then humorously or perhaps exasperatedly referred to Will as a full handful, a comment that drew a small smile from the rookie knight. Realizing the extent of her relief at her safety, Will questioned if he was some sort of Sundra, an emotionally distant figure hiding genuine care beneath rough exterior. The commander quickly cut through the emotional atmosphere with a direct, pragmatic question. So, what's next? Turning his attention to the battered cloak, he inquired about the peculiar luggage it concealed. Suddenly, a muffled voice from beneath the fabric demanded to be released, causing Liberato to stand utterly flabbergasted, acknowledging that this entire situation far surpassed his expectations. Rei emerged from under the cloak, floating effortlessly into view. The commander admitted that he had never encountered such a bizarre and unusual monster before. Noah quickly stepped in to defend him, insisting that Rei had saved her and meant no harm. The commander observed that Rei didn't match any known data for monsters, but he couldn't simply allow such a creature to roam freely within the fortress. Liberato turned to Rei directly and posed the all-important question, "Are you truly on Noah's side?" Rei puffed up his chest proudly, internally shouting that of course he was. She was his favorite character, after all. Boldly, he declared that doubting his loyalty would be downright rude, leaving the Guardians momentarily speechless at his confidence. The commander stroked his chin, considering the bizarre yet fascinating turn of events, recognizing that this far more intriguing than he had anticipated. He ultimately decided that such strange affairs warranted an emergency meeting of the higher-ups, but for the moment, more urgent matters took precedence. Turning back to Noah, Liberato confirmed that she had indeed awakened her own unique powers during her ordeal. We'll explain that, as an ability user, her best and most natural path forward was to become a guardian, someone who protects others with their extraordinary gifts. With a quiet, determined expression, Noah agreed to this path, admitting that she had nowhere else to return to now. The commander and Will exchanged warm smiles, officially welcoming her into the Guardians' ranks. As they neared the conclusion of their formalities, Noah suddenly remembered an important detail concerning her companion. Turning to Ray with a curious and hopeful smile, she declared that he must be an ability user as well. The two Guardians were visibly stunned by her daring statement. Noah then pointed confidently at Ray, who remained clueless, insisting that her monstrous friend possessed powers just like theirs. Sometime later, Noah was finally shown to her own quarters within the Guardians' living area. For the first time in her life, she sank into a warm, luxurious bath, allowing herself to be carried away by the simple comfort, so overwhelming that it nearly brought her to tears. Floating peacefully in the water, she wondered whether she truly deserved this newfound peace and safety. The Guardians had provided her with a proper home, a concept that still felt largely unfamiliar and almost surreal to her. The following day, Will decided to pay her a visit, curious about how she was adjusting to her new life. He knocked on her door, politely inquiring how she was settling into her new environment. When he stepped inside, he was greeted by the surprising sight of a meal being prepared, indicating that she was already beginning to find some comfort and routine. He introduced himself again, simply checking on her well-being. But before he even managed to turn the doorknob, an unseen force suddenly yanked his hand away, leaving him utterly stunned by the strange and unpredictable turn of events. The door burst open with a sudden gust of wind, causing it to slam loudly against the wall and propelling the rookie knight backward in surprise. Bewildered, he questioned where such a powerful gust could have originated from, as if a fierce gale had appeared out of nowhere. That invisible force had pushed him effortlessly into the room, catching him entirely off guard and unprepared for what awaited inside. In the quiet chaos, the door swung shut behind him with a resounding thud, sealing him inside with whatever force or entity had unleashed that sudden blast. Will quickly gathered himself, rising to his feet and wondering aloud whether this unexpected disturbance might have been the work of her mysterious companion. At that moment, Ray, wearing an apron that looked surprisingly domestic, struck a confident pose and owned up to the incident, proudly claiming credit. He explained that he hadn't wanted anyone else, most notably other Guardians, to see him in such a candid state, so instead of sneaking around, he simply forced the door open with his own gust of wind. Will stood frozen, staring in disbelief at the scene before him, struggling to process the surreal sight of a monster wearing an apron, seemingly engaged in mundane domestic activities. The sight was so unexpected that it left his mind reeling, questioning why a creature known for its ferocity was casually cooking breakfast, as if this were an ordinary routine. Ray, meanwhile, explained that he was preparing food for Noah, leaving the rookie knight utterly baffled by this surprising display of domesticity from such a monstrous figure. The mention of yesterday's events caused Ray's mind to flood with memories, recalling the whirlwind of encounters that had led them to this moment. The scene flashed back to Noah boldly declaring that her mysterious companion was capable of wielding a special kind of ability, an astonishing revelation to both Guardians present. They looked at her in shock, stunned by the very idea of a monster harnessing such power, which defied their normal understanding of abilities. The commander, in particular, was visibly enraged, shouting that such a thing was impossible and absurd. However, as he fumed, his disbelief soon turned to intense curiosity. He demanded to know what kind of ability Ray possessed. Calmly and with unwavering composure, Rei conjured a radiant sphere of pure holy light right in front of the stunned commander, showcasing his power. Liberato, one of the guardians, gasped as he felt the sacred energy flow from Rei's hand, directly into his own palm. Recognizing it immediately, he knew it was a rare and powerful healing ability, so rare that it was considered almost legendary in their world. Overcome with shock, the commander declared Rei a threat at the highest level, clearly losing his self-control. Returning to the present, Will admitted that the previous scene had been utterly wild and unbelievable. Then, searching for Noah, he asked where she was, but Rei just looked back blankly, as if he had no clue what the night meant. Suddenly, Noah materialized, her radiant and welcoming appearance stunning both boys completely. Without hesitation, Will awkwardly handed her a parcel, explaining that it contained some extra supplies from the Guardians, meant to support her. Overwhelmed by the gesture, Noah thought about the food, clothing, and the new home they had provided her, realizing how much they cared. With a bright and genuine smile, she expressed her deepest thanks from the bottom of her heart. Blushing, Will insisted he was simply following orders, while Rei, captivated by her charming smile, was visibly smitten. The knight informed her that there was a scheduled meeting later and that he would return later to pick her up. As the door clicked shut behind them, Noah and her monstrous guardian were left alone once again in the quiet room. Holding the supplies close, she admitted she had never thought she'd be more than a servant, resigned to a life of subservience. Rei gently patted her head, reassuring her that her new life was something she had earned through her own strength and resilience. Though silent, he silently wished he could tell her to build her confidence and see her worth. Her moment of peace was suddenly interrupted by the irresistible aroma of a freshly cooked meal filling the room. Her eyes lit up, and she eagerly rushed to the table, completely taken aback that Rei had prepared a full breakfast just for her. As she settled into her seat, she wondered aloud why such a kind and gentle soul happened to be a monster. But one taste of his cooking was enough to melt away her doubts, and she jokingly quipped that he was trying to win her over with his culinary skills. Seeing her so joyful, Rei made a mental note to improve his skill in the kitchen, recognizing that he needed to elevate his cooking to match her happiness. Their serene breakfast was suddenly interrupted when Rei remembered the package Will had brought earlier. His glowing eyes fixed on the box with curiosity, pondering what their new ally might have delivered. Inside, Noah discovered a book featuring a legendary hero on its cover. Rei tried to read the title but was immediately able to recognize it as a famous heroic tale known throughout their world. An idea blossomed in his mind. This was an excellent opportunity to finally learn the language of this world. Noah, however, quickly realized that her monstrous friend couldn't read at all. With earnest gestures, Rei begged her to teach him, eager to finally understand the text and the stories it contained. Her face fell in disappointment as she admitted that, as a former slave, she had never been taught to read herself. She offered a small, resigned smile, explaining that even without being able to read, she knew the story was legendary, thanks to the illustrations she remembered. Noah remembered only having understood the story through its pictures, never the words, and that knowledge alone had kept the tale alive in her mind. Rei, feeling defeated, slumped in frustration, despairing that his hopes of learning to read might be impossible. His anger briefly erupted at the oversight of the commander, blaming him for not providing necessary education to Noah. Cheerfully, Noah decided to ask the Guardian commander for lessons, completely missing Rei's silent, protective rage. Yet, that anger quickly transformed into a grim realization about their harsh reality. Books and knowledge were luxuries reserved for the elite. The Guardian's comfort and safety came at a cost. A perilous fight on the front lines against the monsters that threatened their world. As Will led them onward through the fortress, Rei couldn't help but reflect on how cruel and unjust this reality was. In the quiet, Noah hesitantly asked what kind of people the Guardian executives truly were. Will offered her a reassuring smile, promising that deep down they were fundamentally good. He then asked if she was ready to meet them, and she nodded bravely, prepared to face whatever was ahead. With a deep breath, Will pushed open the heavy doors of the executive meeting chamber. Inside, the most formidable guardians in the fortress awaited, their intense gazes fixed intently on the newcomers. A charismatic guardian greeted them with a knowing smile, announcing himself as someone who had been expecting them. A sharp-tongued elf immediately demanded an explanation from the commander regarding this unexpected intrusion. Another guardian, with a playful smirk, teasingly asked the elf what had caught her eye so focused. A stoic-looking guardian dismissed the entire scenario as unimportant, assuming it to be nothing that required his attention. His companion, equally unimpressed, agreed with that assessment, showing no interest in the scene. Meanwhile, a younger member of the group hesitantly inquired if everything was truly all right. The first guardian pointed out that, although there were underlying issues, the elf had acted without knowing all the facts. The elf, irritated by the entire situation, snapped back that his calm demeanor was incredibly vexing, but he laughed it off nonetheless. She tries to reassure him, urging him to stay calm and not to let his emotions get the better of him, bringing her brief monologue to a close. Ray silently watches the ongoing argument, realizing that this entire executive meeting is simply a gathering of eccentric, dysfunctional characters. The elf scoffs dismissively, displaying clear disdain and little interest in the chaotic proceedings. Meanwhile, Noah stands somewhat awkwardly in the middle of the room, feeling the weight of their intense stares pressing down on her, as if all eyes are scrutinizing her every move. A quieter guardian observes her from a distance, offering her a gentle, nearly shy expression that hints at bemusement or perhaps quiet empathy. The room's atmosphere shifts as the charismatic leader skillfully cuts through the rising tension, addressing Noah directly and politely asking her to introduce herself with formal dignity. Bowing deeply, she announces her name as Noah Gran and humbly requests their guidance, seeking to find her place among these strangers. The young girl of quiet demeanor blushes softly and reassures her that there's no need for such formality. They're all here to support one another. A lively woman named Rose steps forward enthusiastically, declaring that everyone present is fundamentally family, sharing an unspoken bond that ties them together like kin. Another guardian, acknowledging her own familiarity with Noah's ordeal, admits she has heard about her challenging experiences. He offers a friendly grin and introduces himself as Eric, officially welcoming her to their team. Even the stoic guardian, who usually maintains a composed facade, breaks into a faint, encouraging smile, telling her to relax because they are all comrades now. The man then directs his attention to the elf named Lilia, criticizing her attitude and pointing out that she is younger than their commander, implying she should show more respect. Lilia dismisses his comment with a sharp attitude, turning to Noah with a prickly, somewhat defiant gesture, suggesting that they should get along despite differences. Another guardian, the shy Tabaki, nervously asks if she will also get an introduction, clearly uncomfortable with the spotlight shining on her. Noah glances over as Tabaki hesitantly peeks out, revealing her discomfort with being the center of attention. The girl quickly becomes overwhelmed, her face flushing and her composure breaking down under the social pressure, causing her to short-circuit emotionally. The leader formally welcomes Noah again, who is awkwardly clutching a suspicious-looking bag that seems out of place amidst the chaos. She agrees to join, smiling politely, while Ray quietly internally celebrates that his hero has found a community where she might truly belong. However, the other high-ranking members are not deceived. Instantly, they demand to know what is inside the mysterious bag. Eric cryptically refers to it as their main theme, a statement that leaves Ray silently begging for mercy. Recognizing his own predicament, Ray realizes he is vastly outmatched by these experienced mannered officials. Surrounded by the most influential figures, Ray begins to wonder if he will survive this intense encounter. Suddenly, a sharp fluctuation of deadly intent erupts from one of the guardians, Lilia. Her teeth grit in clear displeasure at the presence of monsters within their headquarters. In a flash of swift motion, the shy Tabaki lunges forward with her blade drawn, her eyes fixed on her target, her deadly intent unmistakable. For the first time, Ray comprehends that this could very well be a fight he stands no chance of winning. Before he can react, Lilia joins the fray, launching her own attack from below with precision and speed. Eric intercepts, steel clashing fiercely as chaos erupts in the room. Tabaki immediately follows with a quick, powerful kick, causing Rei to stumble as Noah screams his name in alarm. Rose joins the fray with her hands glowing with formidable power, contributing to the sudden assault. Her glowing hand reaches toward Rei with an ambiguous, possibly threatening intent, but not necessarily hostile. The contact prompts Noah to cry out in concern, desperately calling upon the commander as her friend is struck down in the chaos. Frightened and trembling, the terrified Noah can only watch as the tumult continues to unfold around her. Suddenly, both Lilia and Tabaki retreat abruptly, murmuring apologies for their actions, fleeing after recognizing the presence of a monster. Noah rushes to Rei's side, horror-stricken, fearing that the Guardians might have seriously injured him. Rei, stunned internally, recognizes that their astonishing speed left him utterly unable to react in time. Lilia, sheepishly, admits that she instructed Sabaki to stay calm, though her words clearly lacked precision. Eric smirks knowingly, sarcastically questioning whether that was truly what anyone would call calm. Lilia admits she was not serious about her statement, while Sabaki confesses her struggle with holding back her innate instincts. Eric then takes a moment to thank Will, the one who brought them all together, acknowledging that everything that happened was, perhaps, inevitable. Noah's eyes glow with anger as she glares at the executives, furious that they would question Rei's good intentions and heroic efforts. The commander then cuts through the lingering tension, deciding it's time for a proper, formal explanation. He introduces their mysterious guest to everyone, declaring openly that his name is Rei. The room instantly tightens with curiosity, as the high-ranking officials swarm around him, eager to learn more. They bombard him with questions that reveal their disbelief upon discovering a monster who not only saves lives but also utilizes astonishing powers. Liberato points out that a monster possessing such high healing capabilities is an invaluable asset that cannot simply be released. Rose adds that she is surprised to find that this strange creature shares her healing abilities, emphasizing their commonality. However, the commander clarifies that Rei's power is highly specialized, focusing solely on individual targets, unlike Rose's area of effect healing. He admits that if Rei could wield multiple powers simultaneously, he would be a dangerously overpowered force. Eric leans in and asks whether Rei can be relied upon, to which the hero silently nods in agreement, accepting the new partnership. Liberato observes that the level of trust placed in Rei so quickly is nearly ridiculous, yet he finds it understandable given the circumstances. Rose concurs, acknowledging that the creature in front of her no longer appears to be a threat. Noah agrees, firmly insisting that Rei was never a malicious entity to begin with. Eric reflects quietly, a contemplative look crossing his face, as he considers how bizarre this entire situation has become. Rei, meanwhile, internally admits that he was entirely unable to respond to Sabaki's lightning-fast strike, his reaction a mere reflex that he couldn't control. The other Guardians, peering at Rei's display of potential, are left utterly stunned, their reactions a mixture of awe and excitement about his capabilities. The commander explains that Rose's ability enhances ally strengths and diminishes monsters' defenses, making her a one-woman support system. Liberato humorously suggests that with Rei's presence, her workload might finally become manageable. Rei silently confirms their assessment through a simple, determined nod. The commander further explains that for those wielding special abilities, holy energy can serve as a potent buff, turning Rei into a mobile power-up. To other monsters, however, the same holy energy would spell doom, acting as a deadly barrier. Yet, Rei's power remains focused and precise, capable of enhancing only a single individual at a time. Rose admits that, although her area of effect skills are more versatile, having Rei's support would still be incredibly valuable. While Eric enthusiastically endorses welcoming Rei, Lilia insists that he must be kept under strict supervision for now. Even the shy Tabaki voices her support, agreeing that Rei should be allowed to stay and contribute. The stoic guardian offers a conditional offer of acceptance, warning that he will show no mercy if Rei ever betrays or turns against them. Lilia reluctantly consents to the surveillance, struggling to conceal her mounting acceptance of the situation despite her initial resistance. Once the matter is settled, the commander formally announces that a final decision has been made, bringing a sense of closure to the tense deliberation. Ray then proudly reveals his newly issued permit, which grants him access under the vigilant supervision of the high-ranking executives. Lilia immediately raises concerns about how they will justify this development to the other guardians, her voice tinged with unease. Meanwhile, Noah whispers excitedly to a visibly flustered Ree, sharing his enthusiasm about the outcome. Eric voices his belief that they should take their time before fully trusting Ray's loyalty, suggesting a cautious approach. Lilia, although still reluctant, dismisses the meeting with a sense of resignation. As she begins to leave, she offers a rare compliment to Will, acknowledging his effort with a hint of genuine appreciation, despite her usual reserved demeanor. She then directs a gentle reproach at Tabaki for taking her words too literally, noting that only a novice could have mishandled such an attack so badly. Mortified, Sububaki quickly turns back, apologizing to Will, who is still trying to process everything that has transpired. Nonetheless, her main concern remains the commander, and quietly, she seeks a private conversation with Liberato, eager to discuss her worries away from prying ears.